All right, we're recording. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Global Talent Links of Mice and Men, written by John Steinbeck, and I am Christine Cotter, and I'll walk you through your lessons for this story. Ooh, can't use the button. All right, welcome to class. So today's agenda, you're going to learn a little bit about John Steinbeck, the author. We are going to understand the setting and time period of Mice and Men. I don't want to tell you anything right now. Appreciate the concept of a migrant worker. I love that sentence, that blurb. Appreciate what that feeling is. The concept of a migrant worker. And if you don't know what a migrant worker is, take a minute and look that up. We're going to learn about the meanings of vocabulary words that will appear in chapter 1 and reflect upon this idea of friendship. Something we can all relate to. Friendship is personal to everybody. And I think everybody in the world will be able to have some sort of connection to this idea of friendship, whether it's a good or a bad friendship, right? Class objectives. The purpose of this book club is to read and enjoy literature, and that should be the purpose of reading always. We read because we fall in love with characters. We read because we want to learn. We read because we want to go on adventures. That's why I love reading. It's why I continue to love reading. And I love instilling that in my own two children. The author. So John Steinbeck was born in Salinas, California in 1902. He is considered one of the greatest storytellers of the 20th century. His work is part of a literary movement called Realism, which addressed the concerns of common people and portrayed the characters and settings as they really were. Common people are your everyday people, the people you see every single day. I am a common person, right? Realism is taking their life and putting it into a story, not exaggerating, taking it for whom they are. As a young man growing up in Salinas, Steinbeck worked on a ranch and also spent time writing, which was encouraged by his parents. Working on a ranch gave him inspiration for the setting and the plot of Mice and Men. Okay, he's an award-winning author, Tortilla Flat, The Grapes of Wrath, two notable texts that if you do love of Mice and Men, you should go further and maybe start with Grapes of Wrath. It's a tough book. Steinbeck was an observant and private person, and his attention to details of the lives of others helped him write in a deeply realistic and thoughtful manner. Maybe someone would call him a wallflower. He stood back and observed. But in his observations, he was able to bring such realistic portrayals of people in his characters, making him very popular because as a reader, you're able to relate to the characters in the book. Maybe not wholeheartedly, but a piece to them is so human because it's so real. Your connection is real. We're going to learn about migrant workers and how vital they are to our economy, even today, never mind back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, through the Depression, after the Depression, how vital they are to our world today. California is where our text takes place. We've got two characters, we're not going to get into them right now, who are traveling from the northern part of California to the southern part because they're looking for job opportunities. This idea of the American dream was not lost on people. The setting is in a farmland in Salinas Valley. We don't know the exact date, but we do know the time period. And we do know, I'm telling you again, that this does take place during the Great Depression. A piece of American history that you should look into to get a good idea for how people struggled and how people rose above their struggles, in order to get a good feel for the environment in which Of Mice and Men takes place. Steinbeck, like we said, lived on a ranch, and he was able to draw from his experiences, his observations with the people who worked on the ranch in order to incorporate such a realistic setting in his text. And it's not always a comfortable setting. It's not always an easy setting. It's harsh. It was a hard world in which they lived, in which these characters, George and Lenny, are living. Here, you can double click on To a Mouse by Robert Burns to read through, try to read through. I love that that's put there. The Scottish poem, which inspired Of Mice and Men. This poem was written in 1785. Isn't that amazing? Do you ever hope to write something that will be here in hundreds of years to come, or build something that will last hundreds of years? I'm always fascinated by something that was written or built or inspired or created so long ago and is still standing today. The poem is about a farmer who accidentally ruins a mouse nest and feels guilty that winter is coming and the mouse will not have a chance to create a new home. Very inspiring, you don't know why yet, for the events that transpire in Of Mice and Men. This idea of destruction, the character of a mouse, this idea of starting over. The poem is very influential in the story of Mice and Men. Before reading each chapter, you will be given a list of words, which you may be unfamiliar with, but here we have a slide giving you some of the vocabulary words. Trust your gut when you come to reading and you come across a word. Keep going for another sentence or two to see if the paragraph give you any hints or any clues towards what that word might mean. Connotation, how the word makes you feel, go with that gut. And if you're still stuck, look up the word. But here are a few words that you should familiarize yourself with before you read chapter 1, or at least you have a reference when you get to the word in chapter 1. You can come back and take a look at this short dictionary for words you will encounter. All right, so think about it. What do you know about Steinbeck? Where did he grow up? What year was he born? Where did he live? Those all draw into the text of Mice and Men. Realism, the definitions in the word. The word is in there, real. What does it mean to be real? That was a movement in literature. Steinbeck and many others thought it was so important for their characters to be relatable, real to the common folk who are going to be reading them. What did you learn about this setting? Remember, the Great Depression was a time in history in which this book was written, and it affects the economy, it affects families, it affects the structure of a household, characters in and of themselves. And who are migrant workers? Why are they so vital to the success of the United States of America and every other country? Without them, what would happen? All right, so that is it for this first slide. Take a minute, look up, do a little research yourself on, like I said, the Great Depression. If the author, this idea of realism and John Steinbeck interests you, go further with that. See what other authors, poets you're going to find that modeled this idea of realism. It might be something that inspires you. Think about ranch life, okay? Until next time, I'd like you to read chapter 1. Think about, write about, draw about, what does it mean to be a friend? And go further if you need to, if that's such a broad topic or such a broad way of thinking. What does it mean to you to be a good friend? And what qualities do a bad friend have? And then you'll be able to weigh the differences and reflect, what kind of friend are you? All right. Until next time, I will see you later. Bye.